Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Base Hit Ball 4 podcast. My name is Glenn Zadiris, alongside, as always, Alex Cashman, Scott Roswald, and Tyler Blumenstick. About 2 weeks away from spring training, moves are still continuing to happen. We're still waiting on Trevor Bauer, who seems to be taking his sweet-ass time deciding to sign anywhere. But a huge blockbuster trade happened between now and the last time we spoke to you guys. That's the Nolan Arenado to the St. Louis Cardinals, going from the Colorado Rockies to the St. Louis Cardinals. This is something that Nolan Arenado has wanted for seemingly over a year now. Signed a massive extension with the Colorado Rockies. Seems like a pattern with star players from Colorado. You can go back to the Tulowitzki days, to the Matt Holidays. They all seem to leave, and Nolan Arenado is now not an exception. He's going to St. Louis. So we talked about last week who wants to win the NL Central. We looked at all these teams, the Reds, the Cubs, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Pirates completely tearing it down. We're like, nobody really wants to win this division. And now that's not true. Now it's clear that the St. Louis Cardinals are going to be the team that makes that step as the clear front runner in that division. Now, let's take it from a Cardinals point of view first. This is something that the Cardinals needed to do. They've been struggling offensively seemingly for years. They're an organization that just breeds pitcher after pitcher after pitcher. So the pitching is never a problem with that organization. The problem's always been offense. And now they have arguably a top 5 player in the game, certainly probably the best third baseman, arguably, in the game. We'll see how Nolan Arenado reacts to not being in that altitude. We'll see if his offensive numbers don't decline, if they ascend, if they flatten out. We'll see what happens. That's to be determined. But St. Louis got their guy, and they are clearly now the front runner in that division, in a division that a lot of teams don't really seem to want to compete in.
I think that's an important point, and it's going to be a big reason why the Cardinals do have success because, I mean, you touched on it. We don't know how Arenado is going to be outside of Coors Field. I personally don't think it's going to be that big of a hit. I know you look at his home and away splits recently, and it shows that he does perform better at Coors Field, obviously. I mean, which makes sense. I look at this Cardinals team now, and even Nolan Arenado at his best, I'm still a little skeptical of that lineup because it's not that great. Like, yes, you add one more impact bat, but in a lineup that has 9 spots, I feel like aside from Paul Goldschmidt and Arenado right now, maybe Matt Carpenter. I mean, if he hits a hot streak, like
Carpenter's not even going to play now. He's going to be a bench player.
Well, without a DH, I don't think he's getting in that lineup every day.
No,
maybe second base is the spot for him, but I mean, he's going to have to go up against
Wong.
Now Wong's gone. They're going with Tommy Edman at second base.
Yeah, most likely. I don't know.
I agree, Ty. It's not like, take on the world lineup like the Dodgers or the Yankees, have. But I do think they have some young guys in that outfield that are continuing to grow, in Tyler O'Neill, Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson. If they can get production from those 3 guys along with Goldschmidt and Arenado, they're going to have a good lineup, not the best, and they're easily going to win the division. They brought back Wainwright. They have Jack Flaherty. They just have a hole at catcher right now. I gotta imagine Yachty's coming back. I know he wants to come back.
I've read that he is coming back, but they're not announcing it until after. I guess he's playing in Winter League or something like that.
Yeah, he's playing down in Venezuela. Seems like he's having a great time. He was pitching, playing first base. So I gotta imagine he'll be back, and the Cardinals are the front runner in this division. You mentioned Arenado's home and road splits. They are significant. He's a 322 hitter at home at Coors Field, and he was a 263 hitter on the road for his career. But 263 isn't bad. Like that's still a good season.
Not to cut you off, but wasn't LeMahieu's home and away splits really bad too when he was with the Rockies?
Possibly. I don't know exactly.
I'm sure they're all skewed.
But
if you go back to Tulowitzki in his career, I'm sure that was skewed. Matt Holiday as well.
Todd
But
Helton.
I feel like once they all left, they still had relatively really good success when they
That's
left.
what I was saying. I mean, DJ LeMahieu's great now.
You can't blame them for that. That's not their fault that they play in Colorado and play at Coors Field half the year. Like that's just the reality of the situation. And I don't see him taking a huge step backwards as a hitter. He's still an elite bat, an elite defender at third base. So it's a great move by the Cardinals. All in all, they absolutely robbed the Rockies prospects wise, and they're getting $50 million to pay his contract. Like
and they're not paying anything in 2021. All $35 million is going to be on the books for the Rockies.
They absolutely robbed the Rockies. It sucks for that fan base, the Rockies fan base, that they're losing their best player, and the organization is giving away money to get rid of them. But great move for the Cardinals.
Totally
I have
agree.
the Cardinals lineup right here. It's going to be in no particular order. This is just what a Cardinals beat writer that I pulled up has. Edman, Arenado on the 2 spot, Goldschmidt, Carlson, DeJong, Dexter Fowler. They have the catcher spot empty, which will eventually be Yadier Molina, Harrison Bader, and then the pitcher spot 9th. That's a good lineup. Now, is it the lineup that the Dodgers have or the Padres have? No, I don't think so. Is it comparable to the lineup that the Mets are going to put out there? I think so. So I think that it's good enough, I feel like, to make noise, to definitely win the division, but to make noise in October for an organization that's, a pitching dominant team franchise. I think if the pitching does what Cardinals pitching normally does, they could be a sleeper team come October.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about getting to the postseason, and they've positioned themselves to do that. And it's just an experienced organization. From the top down, they know what it takes to win. And if you have Wainwright and Yachty there leading the way for the rest of the team, those are guys that have been to multiple World Series, won multiple World Series. So I see no reason why the Cardinals couldn't be a threat.
I'm not sure they're definitely not going to bring back Wong, though. I think they still could.
They could.
With 2 weeks left until spring training, I feel like the longer these, not a guy like Bauer, but the longer these other free agents, lower tier free agents hold out, the less the money's going to be, because they're going to start getting desperate to find a job and have somewhere to go for spring training. So I still
found
think
it. Sorry.
It's okay. Go.
In 2017, with the Colorado Rockies, DJ LeMahieu hit 327 at home and 294 on the road. So my point was not proven. However, it was still
it's still
drastically lower.
Yeah,
it was
there's
a
a
good try.
difference, but good hitters are going to hit no matter where they are.
I feel like that doesn't affect DJ as much either, because he's more of a singles hitter. So you get the ball up in the air, that's when it kind of takes off. But I don't know.
Yeah, the power numbers are definitely.
Well, and it's funny because he's hit for more power since leaving Colorado. I mean, stadium-wise, Yankee Stadium, much smaller. DJ plays that right center very well. He hits that power alley there, whereas...
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the Astros cheating, he'd have one of the most ridiculous home runs in franchise history. But
there you go.
What do I know?
There it is.
Cheaters.
We always bring up the Astros.
I hate
at
them.
some point.
We do.
I
hate them.
Cash always brings up the Astros.
And this is mildly off topic, okay? But
we always get off topic, so go ahead.
Right, this is my point, okay? Houston, you can thank the Astros for cursing your sports franchises. I mean, since that happened, right? Watson's forcing his way out. Harden forced his way out. Chris Paul got out. Westbrook forced his way out. You guys can keep your ring. That's okay. But you lost.
Cole's gone. Springer's gone. Correa's going to leave.
Verlander forced his way out.
Verlander's done. So keep your ring, losers.
So the city of Houston's done.
Yeah, you can keep your ring, but you're cursed.
I mean, Verlander's still there. He's just hurt.
But he's not
going to pitch all year.
He's not
and what's he going to be in 2022?
I will never.
That's another topic for another day.
To be fair, we did say that.
Another day.
We said that the year they made the run. We did not know what Justin Verlander was going to be.
No, I'll never count out Justin Verlander, but I don't think he'll pitch again for the Astros.
All right.
Cheating losers.
Let's switch sides to the trade. Let's talk about the Colorado Rockies for a second, because this seems to be a pattern with them. They signed Tulowitzki, traded him. They signed Arenado, traded him. If I'm Trevor Story, there's no chance I'm signing an extension with free agency a year away. It doesn't make any sense.
About the Rockies.
Everyone's paying their return. They got Austin Gomber, left-handed pitcher, Mateo Gil, an infielder, Elihiris Montero, an infielder, Tony Losi, and Jake Summers, two right-handed pitchers. All of them are in the top 30 prospects for the Cardinals, but none of them were top 5. The Rockies are spending a lot of money giving it to St. Louis. This was a bad trade for them, and it's surprising because, it's not a Lindor kind of trade, or maybe even a Trevor Story eventual kind of trade where he's a free agent immediately at the end of the season. Nolan Arenado is locked up long term, and they really didn't get a lot of quality prospects in return, or major prospects in return. Kind of reminded me of the Stan trade to the Yankees, where the Yankees didn't give up prospects. They gave up Starlin Castro, and the Marlins gave back $50 million in Stanton. This seems like a salary dump for Colorado instead of a let's make our team better for the future.
So I have a question about the Rockies, because you've mentioned that they've done this before, right? And it's only a matter of time until Story leaves, and only a matter of time until Blackman most likely leaves, in my opinion. At what point do you just say, do you look yourself in the mirror and say, we have to change what's going on here? And I feel like there's multiple teams around the league that have to look in the mirror and say that. Like, I feel like the Pirates are one of them, or like the Reds, like a team that's just constantly, like, maybe it will run into a playoff season, but they're so irrelevant to the sport. Like, what are they doing for the sport other than for the fans in Colorado? I'm serious.
It's interesting because the Rockies are a little bit different than like the Pirates or the Reds, so those kind of teams that just, organizationally, front office, they seem to not know what they're doing. The Rockies seem to be behind the 8 ball just naturally based on the altitude. How can they have a sustained length of time where they're successful? They make the playoffs, once every 5 years? They make a quick cameo, either in a wild card game, maybe sneak into the NLDS, but they never go further than that, other than, 14 years ago,
Glenn,
now, in
nothing
2007
against
when they made the World Series. I don't think that franchise can sustain success with that altitude.
Nothing against you, Glenn, because I know that this is just repeated information, but I cannot stand the altitude argument. I think that's such a bunch of bullshit.
It's not. It's statistically backed up.
They've never had a good starting pitcher. When have they had sustained pitching? They
Okay,
can't
then
get
here's my next question. Why not move the franchise? That's what I think.
That's a good question.
You have
it's a
to
big
either,
city,
but then you're gonna just sign up to lose every year. See, I'm obviously well known by you guys and by my friend. I'm incredibly competitive, and I will never sign up to do something where I think I'm going to lose. So for me, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that they know that their starting pitcher isn't going to do well. They know that their franchise is not going to have sustained success, and they still run it out there. Like, to me, that's mind-boggling. I don't know how somebody could do that.
They have to develop their own pitching because they're just going to leave in free agency, and no big free agent is going to want to go to Colorado, even if they offered them, 10 times as much as they're worth on the market. No pitcher is going to want to willingly come to Colorado.
I'm not talking about that. If you're saying that the ball goes further in the altitude, right? The more home runs are hit.
Yeah.
Why have a team there? It's a major sports city.
They were an expansion team in 1998.
Major League Baseball put them there.
I'm just saying. I mean,
the Nuggets are there. The Broncos are there. It's a sports city, but I don't know if baseball works. That's my argument.
I could provide a counter argument to that, where if you're a pitcher, and I'm going to get on Cash's side here. If you're a pitcher coming to Colorado, the point of pitching and being a good pitcher is you're missing the bat. So the guys that can miss bats realistically should not have a problem. Now, I understand the frustration of letting up a ball that should travel 320 and doesn't get out anywhere, and it travels 335 and it squeaks over the wall. That I understand. But I don't know. I feel like the run support balances out. Like, it's.
So here's my question. Right.
I don't know about moving the franchise.
That was my next point, right? Is fine. So you don't want to move the franchise. You want to stay in Colorado. The altitude is a real thing. Great. Your guys are getting the same amount of at-bats in that ballpark, right? So the Rockies are getting more at-bats, and they shouldn't lose at home, essentially, is what you're saying. If it's that much of a difference, they shouldn't lose at home.
Not necessarily. It's not what I'm saying.
I don't mean they're going 81-0. That's not my point. But
regardless, the blame's on the wrong place. The blame is on the front office of the Rockies, for sure. Okay, they had a pretty solid young pitching staff, and still do. Freeland, Senzatella,
Marquez, and Gray.
Yeah, 3 years ago, like those guys were coming up. Like that's a nice little staff to look forward to, and they've kind of come into their own a little bit.
Is it?
Not really developed anything crazy like any all-star seasons or whatever, but a serviceable pitching staff. And Senzatella actually last year pitched a lot better at home than he did on the road. Now that I remember. However, it's I feel like it's a cop out, and that's what that's used as. The front office should never get the benefit of the doubt and be able to say, "Oh, the altitude, the pitching." And
Well, that
I
was
don't
my point.
necessarily do, but like people blame the altitude as opposed to blaming the GM, and the GM is the one being hard on himself now. I feel like because it's only coming to light because of Arenado.
But
Is-
isn't it a fair argument to say that a lot of people, a lot of good players, and especially pitchers, as a free agent, wouldn't want to go to Colorado given the alternatives without the altitude, and their numbers will clearly be better if they're pitching their home games in, St. Louis or New York or wherever else instead of Colorado?
And I could see that. And I could also see the hitters argument where you would normally think that they'd want to come to Colorado, but they're not because now there's this stigma around it where you go and you kind of get the Coors Field effects to your statistics and your legacy is tainted. So yeah, I could understand it from that perspective.
But
for
it's
sure.
not even the numbers on the field. I listened to Nolan Arenado's interview on MLB Network today, and something he said is that it takes a lot longer for your body to recover from those nicks and bruises with the altitude than in any other place. It takes a while for your joints to recover game after game. It takes a while for minor injuries to get over it, get healthy again game after game. So it's not really performance based entirely. It's also just the wear and tear of playing 81 games in that situation, in that setting.
Did Arenado have a no trade clause?
Yes.
So he
Yes.
could have waived any trade
did.
he wanted. So I think you could put partial of this blame on him.
Well, he
he
wanted
coulda-
out. He made it clear.
No, I know that, but he could have also said, "Okay, I want to go to the Cardinals. I want to go to St. Louis," and it could have trapped Colorado. So I'm just gonna look at it both sides because I'm gonna have faith that the Rockies organization knows what they're doing, and that they have had a solid lineup in the recent past, so they can scout talent. I think that he could have screwed them over a little bit.
Yeah, and another factor to it is he does still have his opt out. If things go terribly wrong in St. Louis this year, he could opt out of his contract
After
and
this
become
year?
and become a free agent. So that did play a factor in it as well. But I feel like they didn't get enough in return overall, giving away the money as well to the Cardinals, and then the GM to come out and say, well, we're not rebuilding. We still think that we have a great team and we can compete is ludicrous, especially in that division when you have to go up against the two best teams in the National League and the Padres and the Dodgers. Like they need to fully commit to rebuilding at this point and trade Story while you can, trade Herman Marquez, trade John Gray, like ship off what you can get and get back what you can at this point and just start over because they're not in a position to be competitive whatsoever without Arenado.
That was my next point because I've seen both sides of the argument whether to trade Story now immediately or try to sign him long term. First of all, if they try to sign him long term, and I'm Trevor Story, and I've seen what's happened with not only Arenado, but with also LeMahieu, who was traded to bring up Story. Tulowitzki, who was traded to bring up Story, and then LeMahieu leaving, having success elsewhere. I don't see any situation or any scenario where Story decides, yeah, this is the place I want to be, because they seem to be a team that's going to break it down. And if they go to him with an extension, their pitch is going to be, this is the team we're going to build around you. And that's going to take 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even longer with that division. I don't think there's a chance in hell Story stays after this
Money
year.
talks.
Yeah, but
But he's going to get money in the offseason anyway.
I'm just saying, if they offer him the big, I don't think he accepts an extension now, but if they offer him the most money, he's going to stay. My opinion.
It possibly, but he probably also wants to win as well, and he's not going to have that there.
No.
It's probably time for him to move on. I would, and he's going to be highly coveted if he hits the open market. Every team that's looking for a shortstop is going to be calling for Trevor Story. Guy's a 5-tool player.
You could argue that every team's always looking for a shortstop.
True. Yes. It's
Let's move
probably
to
the most important
let's move
position.
to the Phillies for a second because this is a good segue. Scott, Didi resigns. Well, Realmuto resigns 5 years. I'm
115.
blanking on the number. 150, and then they also got
15.
Didi back. 115.
Yes, 115.
Okay, and they also bring Didi back 2 years, $28 million. Now we all love Didi on the show, obviously, but given the class of shortstops that are available next year, does it bother you a little bit that it was a 2-year deal and not another 1-year deal where you can play in those big waters in this next offseason?
I guess because I do like Trevor's story. If anybody hits that market, he would have been the guy I would have wanted. But they also they drafted a kid in the first round 2 years ago, and Bryson Stott, who they're very high on, who at the end of this DD contract will be big league ready. So I think that was kind of their plan. Didi was so valuable for that team last year. His defense isn't what it used to be anymore, but his bat is so important in that lineup, especially in Citizens Bank Park. I'm perfectly fine with signing the 2-year, $28 million. Gave Didi what he wanted. Another left-handed bat for the Phillies, and he's just we've mentioned it before. The guy's just a leader for whatever organization he is with. Everybody loves him. He does the right thing. He plays hard. You know he's going to be there when it matters most. So I'm perfectly fine with the Didi signing.
Yeah, I think it was a good fit. Didi with Joe Girardi with now Realmuto back. We talked about it last week. That division's going to be insane. Some off the field notes. The proposal by MLB and the MLB Players Association. So MLB wanted to delay the start of the season by a month, which would have equated to about 8 games, which means that each team had to play assigned double headers. The Players Association had no part of that. MLB offered also a DH universally and expanded playoffs. MLBPA said no, which is their right. Major League Baseball decided to try to swing this 2 weeks before spring training when players were already in the midst of their all-season workout plan and getting ready for a spring training that was going to start when they thought it was going to start in November, in the middle of February, like normal. It seemed very weird and rushed and kind of like the MLB just winged it. Like, I don't understand why this was even a thing so late in the offseason.
I don't know. I'm sick and tired of these like back and forths with the league and the players union. Like I don't even care what the issue is at this point. I just feel like there's something bigger where it's like they almost don't want to come to an agreement. Like they want there to be this tug of war. Like that's just my gut feeling here. I don't understand why. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It really makes no sense to push back the season. I'm glad the players union pushed back on it, and I know one of the major reasons that they did do it was the safety of the pitchers who have already ramped up their off-season throwing programs and getting themselves ready. If they had to shut down and then start it back up again, they're at a greater risk of getting hurt. But like, there was literally no reason not to. I understand like COVID numbers are up and like they're concerned about that, but it's spring training. Like you don't really need fans there. Like, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. I'm glad that they shot it down, and it sounds like everything's going to start on time.
I hope so.
I think Major League Baseball is an absolute clown show. And I'm going to take that back. I think Rob Manfred is, I don't know. Everything they do is wrong. They have no clear-cut answers about anything. And all they do is set the game back. I don't understand. I don't understand the thought process. I don't understand really anything that they do. I don't understand. This one was the worst one. There's no reason. Basketball was delayed because the last season was delayed. All right, so the Lakers and then the Heat played on 72 days rest. That's it. That was the entire offseason, 72 days. And Major League Baseball wants to push a month back after ending the season on time, after only playing 2 months of baseball. You clowns.
It doesn't make sense because seriously, how much of a difference is 1 month of vaccinations going to make where it's worth delaying? Are we going to get herd immunity between April and May? No. So I don't understand why. I feel like the coronavirus was a front. This is just MLB just wanting to flex their muscles.
I was just going to say, this is
PlayStation.
MLB trying to get on top of the Players Association. And they've completely lost control of the entire situation. They know that the players run the show now, and they're trying to get it back. And Rob Manfred has failed miserably at everything he's done, every single thing.
I think with the CBA expiring and then renegotiation coming up, I feel like it's just kind of that politicking aspect of it, trying to kind of scare the other side into not coming in with as strong of a proposal, or saying like, hey, we're not going to budge, don't even bother on this, like that kind of stuff. Just like little things, just saying like, all right, we're going to give you a tough time going forward here. But I'm not looking forward to that. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, and I can understand the Players Association shooting down, pushing the start of the season back, and I guess expanded postseason. But I really don't understand the lack of wanting to keep the DH. I know I've been against it before, but it does take away jobs from a Nelson Cruz, from a Marcell Ozuna, a Jay Bruce, and plenty of other guys. Like there'd be so many more opportunities for these guys to be signing. So I don't understand at this point why we're taking away the DH, putting the pitchers back into the lineup where 98% of those guys don't want to be up there anyway. Just bad at bats. Like at this point, like that makes no sense to me.
Scott,
either.
is it possible that? Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
I think both sides want the DH. I think the problem is the Players Association doesn't want to agree to a deal with the DH that's also has piggybacked other things that's going to benefit the owners. Kind of like, this is probably a bad analogy, but kind of like the government now, everyone wants to get stimulus checks, but other parties are going to put their like proposals out that are going to have, filibusters for their specific agendas. And the other side's going to say no. Kind of like,
is it possible that
makes sense.
On top of that, that the players union just does not want to agree with anything the MLB says?
That's a possibility as well. That they, at this point, like they're going to want to play hardball as well and just wait until the CBA expires and then.
Yeah, because if you agree, if the players agreed to a deal proposed by the owners now, they have no leverage next offseason because they just gave in to whatever this was.
True. I think that's an absolutely fair argument.
I think when there's a new CBA, I think that there will be expanded playoffs, and I think there will be DH because that financially helps the players because obviously the DH in the National League opens up 15 jobs, and obviously the expanded playoffs gets more TV revenue in for the players and for the game. The one thing about expanded playoffs that I saw that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to get your opinions on it. Some players argue that if you expand the playoffs, then teams are going to be, I guess, content with the rosters they have and kind of just hope to back into the playoffs instead of having a small playoff field where teams are going to have to go out and spend money and make trades to definitely get into the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that?
What's the pros of extending the playoffs?
More ad revenue, more ticket revenue, just more money.
Why don't we just, on the same token, let's just print more $100 bills? I mean, then there's more, right? I mean,
I don't think it's the same.
No, it is the same thing because the $100 bill money becomes less valuable, is my point, right? And the more playoff games you get, the less important each pitch is, and the less important winning the division becomes.
Yeah, it de-emphasizes the regular season.
And that's like, is that really what
I don't
MLB
think it
wants?
de-emphasizes the playoffs, though. I think
but is that what MLB wants for a league that struggles to draw attendance for regular season to begin with? Who is going to go to a game in, I don't know, May on a Tuesday night in the Bronx when it's 36 degrees, when that game literally means nothing, knowing that 3 teams from AL East are going to make the playoffs?
I see the argument, but I don't think in a real life perspective and cause and effect situation there that take you for example, like, are you thinking about the playoff structure when you're going on StubHub to buy a game a week from now?
Yeah, but
Like,
you can't take us into consideration because we're going to go regardless. Major League
Yeah,
Baseball
but,
already
like-
has us by the balls.
But the people that are going to actually look into a playoff situation, how many teams get in before making the decision to go to a baseball game,
Sure.
like I feel like it's few and far
But,
between.
all right, so
The
here's my
NBA
argument.
does fine attendance-wise, and everybody makes the playoffs.
There's less seats and it's indoors.
The playoffs aren't the reason why they're not filling seats, and I don't think expanding the playoffs really makes much of a difference.
Well,
there.
I think long run it does, honestly. Maybe not. If we got to prove today, I don't think next year people are going to say, oh, well, I'm not going to go. But like realistically, April games just don't matter.
But on the
I mean,
contrary,
they do,
you can look
but they
can
don't.
look at October or September and say that those teams that are not usually in it are in it, and they're selling tickets now. So I don't know. I feel like the percent change is no more than maybe like 1.5% at the very most of people that fall off and don't go to a game because of that.
But
And that's even exaggerating. I think that might be a lot.
Isn't the playoffs supposed to be this like coveted thing that like, oh wow, my team made the playoffs? But in reality, you're going to expand the playoffs so where over 50% of the league makes the playoffs. You have a better shot of making it than missing it. Doesn't that make no sense to anybody else but me? I don't get it. The goal is to win a World Series. The goal is to make the playoffs. That's you want your team to sell playoff 2021 merchandise. It would be more of a shame if you don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, but more teams get to do that now.
But that's absurd. But what I'm saying is making the playoffs
That makes more money for the league.
So here's my argument, right? The next 10-year stretch, the Yankees go with making the playoffs every year and not winning the World Series means even less than it does now. Because you have to if you don't make the playoffs, everyone should go. Every single person should be fired. The fact that more than half the league makes the playoffs is like my fantasy league accepting 6 of the 8 teams into the playoffs.
So I get what you're saying, and for the Yankees, it doesn't like really like it makes it easier, I guess. But like the Marlins this year, like coming into the year, the Marlins had what 0.1% chance of making the playoffs, and they managed to do it. Like it gives those other smaller teams, a little bit more hope. It gives those fan bases a little more something to.
I totally get it. I just think that more than half the league making the playoffs, to me, it means the playoffs means nothing until the World Series. And take the Yankees out of it. I just mean in general. Like, that's great. The Marlins make the playoffs. But so did every other team in the league.
I know right now I want expanded playoffs for the Phillies because the division that they play in, like they're optimally like the third best team in the division right now. So it gives them a better, like I want to see Phillies postseason baseball again. It's been a long time, Cash.
So nothing against you, Scott, right? But couldn't my next argument be maybe the Phillies should just get better and then make the playoff pool?
They've been trying to do that, but it hasn't worked out.
No, I get that. I do. And I understand it. I'm just saying it lessens the value of making the playoffs.
I see the argument. I truly understand where you're coming from. But it's inevitable at this point. Like it's gonna happen. Like it's gonna be be reality.
I get it. I just wanted to give my 2 cents.
We appreciate that.
Let's talk about the Yankees. Brian Cashman had a couple interviews this week on the radio, and he didn't hold back on Gary Sanchez when an article came out a couple months ago where Sanchez was surprised he was benched. Nobody told him why he was being benched, and Cashman essentially said, well, you had a horrible year. That's why you're benched, and we don't owe you an explanation of why you're not playing. So, good for Cashman here because Gary has no right to be pissed off about not playing because he sucked. So, I don't know. I hope this doesn't have any lingering effect into 2021. I think this is a big year for Sanchez. I think this is a make or break season for Sanchez in terms of his future with the Yankees. Not off to a good start if you're pissing off the decision makers. I thought it was a very unusual response from Cashman. He's not normally like that when he speaks, so he was clearly pissed off about not only Sanchez's play but the comments he had in the media.
You know what Brian Cashman's tone tells me about Gary Sanchez?
He's
Is that
ready.
He is not built for this, and he is not going to prevail through this. I think
we were on way opposite ends of the spectrum on that one, but go ahead.
I don't think it's a motivation tactic. I don't think it's one of those, here's a kick in the ass, because I think he's gotten enough kicks in the asses over the years.
Done so many.
He's gotten enough. It's to the point where I feel like it's just not getting through Gary's head, and he's feeling entitled in a way where he just feels like that's his starting job. And when you're hitting 240 or whatever and not playing defense or catching the ball when your position is catcher, the clip, we can roll.
He's not even hitting 240. He's hitting like 180.
Yeah, shortened season, fine, whatever. I don't care. Bad, regardless. But what I'm more worried about is the fact that his position is called catcher, and he failed to catch the ball, and it hit him in the face mask at the professional level. That is what I'm concerned about. However, I just feel like for a guy like Brian Cashman to come out and do that when he just doesn't lambaste players like that in the media, out in the public, and have no remorse, something's got to be wrong. And that tells me that Gary absolutely was communicated why he was benched, or should have known. It was that clear, and everybody else knows.
Do you need an explanation, though?
No, you shouldn't.
That bad.
No.
You really shouldn't need an explanation.
You know, I took such a different takeaway from that Brian Cashman quote. I took the takeaway of Brian Cashman is done losing. He is fed up, and he's like, all right, shut the fuck up and play ball.
I think both can be true, though.
And I would have to imagine, knowing who Brian Cashman has been for the last 10 years, he had this conversation with Gary Sanchez before he got blasted in the media. Like, there's no way that Brian Cashman heard about the article, heard about his quote, and then just bashed him. Like, I'm sure Cashman called him and said, hey, shut up. You know, you hit 140. I mean, there's really nothing else you have to say. I just think that Cashman is ready. He's to win, and he's done losing. He knows that the fans are done losing. I'm sure he's heard a couple of my rants, so I will take full credit for this new fired up Brian Cashman, although he has not answered any of my phone calls. I will take full credit, but I do think that Brian Cashman is coming into 2021 saying, it's go time, boys.
Yeah. And the reason for that is his job is on the line pretty soon, because he's in control of putting these rosters together that have failed the last 10 years in the postseason. And Gary Sanchez's job is on the line as well. He's under control until 2023, but I think the Yankees could easily cut ties with him after this year if he has another horrific season. Higashioka stepped up. I don't know. You don't know if he's going to be able to, be a full-time starting catcher, but you do have Austin Wells in the minor leagues getting ready. And as a college catcher, his development to get to the big leagues won't take as long. Yeah, I think you're right, Cash, where Brian Cashman is tired of failing in the postseason, and it's go time, and he's putting the pressure on these guys to get it done and get it together.
What's the leash on Sanchez this year?
All-Star
May,
break.
June, July. How much longer can the Yankees deal with him being an automatic out and a defensive liability?
I bet you'll be able to tell in the first week.
You can't do that.
Mark
Teixeira used to
Attitude with Gary speaks volumes.
Oh.
Just watch him mope around. Watch his demeanor after he strikes out. After he I will, until I'm blue in the face, argue that Gary Sanchez gets screwed by, I forget what the statistic is called, but it's like on high exit velo. What was it? Expected batting average, I think. His is like points lower than where it should be, like by tens of points, maybe like 40 or 50 points, I think. But yeah, his demeanor says it all. I don't know.
It's all about the strikeouts to me. He has to put the ball in play more. The Yankees were fine with his defense in 2017 when he had 33 home runs, in 2016 when he hit 20 home runs in like 3 games, basically. In 2018 and in 2019 in the first half, they were fine with the defense then. And if Gary's gonna hit 250 and hit 35 home runs and be a force in the middle of the order, I'll deal with the pass balls. That's just my opinion.
Well,
Other
I think
people might not have that opinion. That's totally fine. But not a lot of catchers can do the things that Gary can do when he's right. So I think it's about the strikeouts and putting the ball in play.
he also came into camp not in good shape last year. And I think that was a theme in the Yankee locker room. So other than Luke Voigt, everyone was not ready to play ball. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think the All-Star break towards the
Trade
deadline. If Sanchez is doing what
jinx.
Sanchez did last year, if Sanchez is doing what he did in 2020 by the time the trade deadline rolls around, I think the Yankees will be in the market for a catcher. Just a rental catcher that's going to hit better than Higashioka and play pretty good defense. So we'll see
Yadier
what happens
Molina?
with Gary Sanchez. What was that?
Yadier Molina?
Yeah, he's
We've
still
had
out
this
there.
conversation
He's still out
before.
there. A couple of pitching moves over the last couple days. Archer back to the Rays. So the Rays essentially got Glasnow and Meadows for nothing because they got Archer back. And Alex Cobb went from Baltimore to the Angels. Which pitcher do you guys think makes more of an impact positively for their team? Rays and Archer, Cobb and the Angels.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Let me pull up some stats here.
And
real
it's
quick,
tough.
because neither one blow me away at this point in their
That's
careers.
what I was going to say. I was like, it's a tough decision because neither of them are impact guys for me, or on teams that I think will even allow them a chance to be an impact guy. It's just,
I just think I'm going to sound like a broken record because it goes without saying. The Angels, it's amazing. Every Angel fan screaming, "Get Trevor Bauer, get an ace," and the Angels are like, "I see that you want Bauer. Can I interest you in Alex Cobb?" It's not even close. Like Mike Trout, it's his fault he signed the extension, but the Angels have done nothing, and Alex Cobb does nothing for me to sway the needle one way or the other for the Angels. They're still the same exact team that they were at the end of the season last year.
Can we talk about this allure of Alex Cobb really quickly for a second? Because I don't understand it. He's 33 years old. Last year, 2-5 with a 4.3 ERA. In 2019, 0-2 with a 10.95. I guess he got hurt 3 games. 2018, 5-15 with a 4.9. What did he have, the All-Star season in 2017 for the Orioles? Is that what that was? What's the allure of Alex Cobb? Like, why is he a name people follow? I don't get it.
I don't know.
I mean, when he was in Tampa, he was good in Tampa. He had good numbers there, but those
Everyone
teams
seems
were
to be good in Tampa.
were good. He's pitching for one of the worst teams in baseball in Baltimore. Yeah, I don't get it. You know what? I'll take Archer. I think he'll have a bigger impact. I like his.
Do you think
stuff.
Archer can? Do you think Archer can find what he lost when he went to Pittsburgh? Do you think he can be the same Archer that was on the Rays the first time?
He's not going to be, almost a Cy Young Award winner all-star, but I think he's going to be more comfortable there. He's in an organization that knows him. I think he has a better chance of being relevant than Alex Cobb does. Like, as Ty mentioned, there's really nothing special about Alex Cobb at this point in his career.
Yeah, I don't
The
understand.
Rays are going to replace Morton and Snell with Waka and Archer. Do you think that's enough to compete?
The Rays are just going back to 2015. They, seeing guys who might have it. But I mean, if any team is going to rehabilitate like pitchers like that, it's going to be the Rays. They seem to do it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Neither of these two moves blow me away in terms of, oh my God, now the Rays are going to be really good, or oh my God, now the Angels are going to be really good. Angels still need that ace. I guess they are assuming that Ohtani is going to be fine to pitch every 5th day, and he'll be the ace. I laugh at that like Cash is right now.
So that's where bringing in
is.
Trevor Bauer and letting him pitch every 4 days might make sense. So you can space out Ohtani starts more and give him more time in between. I mean, I don't like that concept.
I hate Ohtani.
we not do this, please? We do this so his name makes me cringe. Solely
That's
because what
something
you
that would
like
make sense. So
we get into the ongoing conversation every freaking time about Ohtani and is he a hitter? Is he a pitcher? Should he pitch every 6th day? This, that, 4th day, DH, whatever.
he's got the stuff to do it. He's just got to
I-
get healthy.
The yips. He's got the yips. That's what it is.
Possibly.
I don't know.
Off the field news: Dustin Pedroia retired today. Kind of like that David Wright career arc. Really, really good.
No. And don't compare him to David Wright. He was miles better.
Oof, I don't know.
Well,
David Wright was pretty
In
good.
terms of-
I thought
It,
Pedroia
it
was.
ended the same. That's my point. My point is the career ended the same.
Oh, well, you cut it out then. Sorry.
You cut him off.
Yeah, you cut me off.
You didn't let him
So
finish.
Pedroia, after 14 years, calls it quits. He was the last guy I wanted to see when he was in his prime. He was the last guy in the Red Sox I wanted to see walk up to the plate. Never struck out, it seemed. Little guy. His bat was as long as him. It was amazing, and he had a big swing, and he had a very nice career. And it's sad that it ended the way it did.
Yeah, he came up, made an immediate impact for that organization, winning Rookie of the Year, winning MVP back-to-back years, 3 World Series. I sent you guys that tweet the other day of the stats. His entire career, he only went down on strikes on 3 pitches 9 times. And of those 9 pitches, 4 of them were actually balls. So the guy just had an incredible eye, really good player. He played hard. He inspired a lot of kids that are undersized to, stick with it and have a chance. Dustin Pedroia is what I want Scott Kingery to be for the Phillies. He's never going to be that because the Phillies dick him around and move him all over the place. But he's just a guy that played hard all the time. So, best of luck to Pedroia in his retirement. But yeah, good player. Unfortunate end to his career.
I don't have the time to do it right now, but I'm interested to see the comp of David Wright and Dustin Pedroia now that Cash
I'll do it for you.
said that Pedroia was miles better. But yeah, Ty, those like mid to late 2000 Red Sox team, you had Ortiz, you had Manny sometimes, you had all these guys. Pedroia was really that guy, the last guy you wanted because of the fact that he never struck out. And that's something we talk about a lot on this podcast, putting the ball in play and not striking out every single time or hitting a home run. He was one of those contact guys that we don't see a lot of anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's exactly what he was to the Red Sox, what DJ is to the Yankees, basically. It's kind of that singles hitter that you can rely on, scrappy hitter, and a reliable glove. That's really all you could ask for. Multiple-time All-Star. Had a great career. I don't want to be the one to give him credit, but credit is due. So it was a nice career. It came to an end in a unfortunate way, but great career nonetheless.
So I'm on Baseball Reference. I have Wright and Pedroia's career stats pulled up here. They are very, very similar and both very good. Wright just has a few more home runs. Pedroia has a few more at bats, but across the board, very similar. 296.
What's the WAR?
So David Wright's 49.2 and Dustin Pedroia's 51.6.
Miles better. I told you. Miles better.
Yeah.
Like 2 wins over the course of a career.
Yeah, very different players because of size, but very similar career stats.
And you can make a pretty good argument if they stayed healthy and finished out the rest of their career, a few more years, maybe 4 or 5 more years. Those are 2 guys that could have made it to the Hall of Fame.
You don't think they will?
No, I don't think they will now. No.
Just the way that their careers ended. Too short.
I'm sorry. Nick Swisher was on the ballot this year. There's no way those guys
But that's
aren't
strictly
going to
based
get
off
voted.
requirements.
I'm saying get elected to the Hall of Fame.
No, I know
Getting on the
that.
ballot isn't hard. You just have to, I mean, it is hard, but like.
No, I get that.
It's
I'm
just
just saying
statistics.
there was 0 people elected this year. I think that they will make. Listen, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but
I would say Pedroia would get in over David Wright just because Pedroia has the accolades to his career, World Series, Rookie of the Year, MVP, whereas David Wright just has a couple All-Star game appearances.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's to be interesting when they get on the ballot.
That is a
I don't
really
think they'll
interesting
make it. I think their careers ended too suddenly and too quickly. I think if they played another 4 years healthy, I think they could have racked up. Like, do they have those milestones? Any of them close to 3,000? Any of them close to any of those like milestones that you say he's a
No.
Hall of Famer?
David Wright only has 1,700 hits.
Yeah.
Pedroia has 1,800 hits. Like
You say
these are
only,
really-
but it's the first overall spot in Mets history.
How
That's
about
unfortunate
them
for the Mets.
Mets? How about
Yeah,
them Mets?
None of them are. They're not near like any career like.
Yeah, so
High
they'll
marks.
probably fall short. I don't know. I hope they stay on the ballot for a couple of years, but I don't know if they're ever going to get there. Moving on, only a couple more things left on the docket here. Unfortunately, we had another situation, much like Jared Porter, the Mickey Callaway thing. I feel like we should just get this out of the way. Kind of the same thing as Porter. Inappropriate comments, text messages, photos to women, baseball employees, whether it be media or just PR people, whatever it has you. This can't happen. This can't keep happening. There needs to be a better way to figure out who exactly you're hiring as an organization. I don't know how they do it, but it needs to be done because it's unacceptable how often this seems to happen with front office executives.
Fucking pigs.
Yeah, disappointing, and I'm disappointed in the Angels for only suspending Mickey Callaway at this point.
I could be completely wrong, and I might have misinterpreted what the tweet was. I heard that Mickey Callaway denied wrongdoing, which precludes the Angels from actually firing him.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I read.
And if they're gonna do their own like investigation, and it sounds like MLB is doing an investigation, I think in the long run he will get fired. But just another unfortunate situation. Not a great look for the Mets right now, just to be linked to both of them. But yeah, guys, stop being pigs and sending out inappropriate, unsolicited messages. It's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this is the last 2 weeks. 2 Sandy Alderson hires have been. I don't want to say that Sandy Alderson like is okay with the behavior that these people do, but there needs to be a better way to hire people. They need to ask better questions when they ask people when they ask references, check references, because it's not just Porter. It wasn't just Alderson. It was the Astros GM or assistant GM that got
To
fired.
be fair, in an interview, how is this going to come up? I mean,
Well, I mean, not
Well,
in
it's
the
not
interview,
the
but like,
interview. It's after the interview when they ask people, when they do background checks. That's how it happens. That's how people find out.
right, fair.
So
because like it seemed like in the story that it was happening while he was the pitching coach in Cleveland. So
Well, I thought that the Mets were made aware of the situation before they hired him. That's what I read.
I read the same.
it's and
if
that
that's
looks bad.
true, then the Mets are in big trouble. That's unacceptable. I don't know how much you can blame the Mets now because it's new ownership, but the Wilpons.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like,
But
I know
it's still Sandy Alderson.
yeah, Alderson can lose his job, but can the MLB punish the Wilpons aside from, or is it even the MLB's place?
Isn't
to punish? I don't
Wilpon
know.
still part of the Mets somehow? One of
I
them?
think they own
They-
like 10%.
they
or
own,
something
like,
like that.
They still own SNY.
Gotcha.
So they have
I don't
like
think
5%.
MLB can tell them to give up SNY. I think that's a private.
SNY is
yeah.
about to get canceled.
I don't know if it's going anywhere.
So yeah, that's basically all we have on that topic. Round out the show today. Last topic. The show, Fernando Tatis is going to be the cover. You see it over my shoulder right here. Perfect timing. This was a no-brainer. Can't wait for the game. The cover's sick. It's probably the nicest cover they've ever done. Is he the face of baseball, or is it still Trout?
It
I'd
should
say
be
it's
Fernando.
Tatis.
He's so much more marketable because he chooses to be. Mike could be, but that's not his personality. He doesn't want to. And Fernando, he reaches the young audience. He reaches a Hispanic audience. Like he encompasses everything, and he's a legacy too. Like his dad played in the big leagues. Great move. I loved some of the little videos that they put out for it. I'm excited for the game. I'm a big player of MLB The Show. I still play 20 like on a daily basis. Best sports franchise video game in my opinion. It's good for the game. Great move by MLB.
Yeah, I think this is a huge move. I see, all right, just from scrolling Twitter, I see a lot of selfish PlayStation people who, I guess, took a sense of comfort in the fact that they have the PlayStation exclusive, and now they're pissed off. They're like, oh, apparently there's this like war that I'm just very out of
Why do
touch
people
with.
care?
There's like a console exclusivity war among the video game
Well,
community.
it's a Sony game. Like Sony makes MLB The Show, so like and MLB 2K hasn't existed, so Xbox players have been on the outside looking in. It's the number one reason why I switched from playing Xbox.
It's
to
the
playing
only
PlayStation.
reason why I switched. Yeah.
To play MLB The Show, because I always played it at
Exactly,
my
I'm the
friend's
same way.
house, and I wanted to play it, so I got a PlayStation 4.
The big kicker here is the cross-platform
Yeah.
capability.
That's huge.
Like,
and
it's
that
massive.
it's expansive. It's
You
great.
know what I think? I'm going to throw an idea out there, guys. I think for 1 week, instead of doing a podcast on Zoom, we should do a podcast on like Twitch, and we'll
I'd
have
be
a
down for that.
little mini 3-inning tournament between the 4 of us while we talk, and I think that would be fun.
Cash, we're in the
I'm
business
down.
of more content, so how about we do the podcast and we do that?
I was just going to say, Ty, why don't you stay on after, because I have a business idea.
Let's hear it. I'm ready for it.
All right.
The people don't really care much about that.
Right. So
okay.
we'll wait
Alright.
until after.
Is there anything in the show 21 that you want that's not in 20?
Yeah, I want a Derek Jeter card.
Yeah, they got to
I
get
will drop $100 real on that.
they got to get Jeter into the game. They got to get Hank Aaron into the game. Roberto Clemente, like they got to keep. They did it last year. Like this past year, their content was great. They expanded and got a
And
lot
Nick
of
Swisher.
legends.
I want Swisher.
Keep going. Get Jeter into the game, because that would be huge for so many people. And Ryan Howard and Chase Utley for me.
I would like the base running to be easier. I'm horrible at base running.
You-
Glenn, I
you
think
gotta-
you just need to concentrate.
You got to
more.
use the stick. You can't use L1 and R1.
I tagged up with the guy on third, and the guy on first goes, and I
'Cause you
didn't
pushed
want
the
him
bumper.
to.
That's why.
Yeah, you got to use directional. You got to point to the base and then use the button.
I do. I use the left trigger, and I point it to third base.
The
and I
wrong
press,
trigger.
L1, and then the
That's
guy
the
on
wrong
first base
trigger.
goes.
No,
No,
you
you
don't
gotta-
press L1. You
Yeah,
you select them and you push the like for
Yeah.
that guy you would push home like X.
Yeah, hit X.
After you select them, and the guy on
Wow.
first stays
See, I
put.
learn something new every day.
You're learning.
I'm so bad at base running. I've lost games because I can't run bases.
See, that's
Remember when
where
you lost our tournament?
I take advantage of that. Being a good base runner in that game.
And then we can do what did we do last season with the show? Our teams.
I will never
did the
make you not do that
simulation.
again.
That was awful. that was,
Oh,
that was the
just
worst.
A
Like
lot of time.
that was like the worst 4 or 5 days of my life.
Oh, no.
We can actually play them now though because I don't know if I'm getting it for Xbox or PlayStation, but it doesn't make a difference now because
You have both.
well, I have an Xbox One and a PS4. I don't have any next gen yet.
I would
but
like
Oh.
an extra. If anyone out there knows where to get a PS5, please
That's
help
all.
me.
Glenn's the only one that's got one.
Please help me. I need major help. I'm trying so hard,
You got to follow the people on Twitter.
and it
put
makes
on
me
their-
so sad.
You
I
gotta
do.
know. You got to know
I
things.
do, and then Glenn, shut up. And then the PlayStation ends up in my cart, and then I still lose out on it.
Yeah.
It makes me so sad.
It's unfortunate.
I don't know if it's gonna work for the show, but I know 2K. If you have current gen and you buy like the Mamba edition, you can get the standard edition for the PS5 for free
Yeah, they're releasing more information on all that tomorrow.
tomorrow. So
That's the main reason why
I'm hoping
I want
that I
PS5
actually
for
saw a
2K.
leak that. What was that, Cash? I'm sorry.
the main reason why I want the PS5 is for the 2K next gen, because that is sick.
Oh, I have it. It's great.
Great,
You
thanks.
should come over and play it.
I would rather not.
Okay.
Jesus.
I saw a leak that the what is it? The I guess collector's edition, not the standard edition, but the edition up. I heard the cover is going to be Jackie Robinson.
Yes,
Um,
there's a
pretty cool.
chance for that. We'll see tomorrow.
But
That's getting
no
announced
offense,
tomorrow.
no offense to Jackie Robinson, but I would want the Fernando Tatis cover.
I was not sure where that was going.
Sure, I guess. I mean,
I don't know.
it's a
I
cover.
mean, you get the perks with the
I mean,
collector's edition. You get the
truthfully,
cards and
I'm
everything.
trying to get the digital edition so I never have to buy a game again. I don't have to never have to go to GameStop.
I don't know.
Never-
I like
never have to
digital,
get
but
off
like
the
there's certain
couch.
games that
I'll never get
there's
off the
certain
couch
games that I
again.
want the cover. You know what I mean?
I have friends that are like that they still want the box.
What, weird?
Why is that weird?
Let me
Why
see
can't
I'll show you the
that
last
just be a
show game I
personal
bought.
preference of mine.
I don't know. I just would just prefer to never have to leave my house again. So that's one step.
Well, you can get it delivered to you.
Yeah,
Love
too
it.
much work.
What do you got?
I don't know. I was gonna get the showcase that I got. It's the metal tin Griffey one. It's the last game
That
that
was
I got.
that was a good one. That was a
that's nice.
sturdy box.
That was
Mhm.
freshman year of college.
Yeah, it was the last time I bought a video game, like a hard copy video game.
You have the
100%.
digital for everything else?
Yeah, from that point on, I'm pretty sure
Gotcha.
Me too, Ty.
it's worth it.
That's
That was
I have the
cute.
digital 2K, and then I got the Spider-Man. This game's sick, by the way. It's really good.
Spider-Man. I used to
Yeah.
play Spider-Man, I think, on PS2. I don't know.
I just swing around New York City all day.
We have definitely lost the attention of every single viewer.
It's fine. I think
I
should
would
wrap it
rather
up.
lose the attention of a viewer at this point in the podcast than 2 minutes in. So if you're losing attention now, thank you so much for losing attention at this point.
Okay, they made it over an hour until they lost interest, and so we
Exactly.
started talking about video games. That'll just about do it
I got
for
one more
this
thing.
edition.
Before
Yeah, one
you
more thing.
before you officially wrap up, I know I said it
Normally,
to you guys.
Cash interrupts my outros. Now it's Scott. Okay,
If you
go ahead.
if you have the chance, go watch a live the Drew Robinson story on ESPN Plus.
Yes.
Incredible story. Jeff Passan did the whole thing. Wrote an article as well that I read. If you have the time to read that as well, go read it on ESPN Plus. A live the Drew Robinson story. Emotional, but incredible story. I'm rooting for him. I hope he can make it back to the big leagues with the Giants. He's going to spring training with them. So go watch that if you have the chance.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch that. I just didn't get a chance today because I was shoveling snow all day. So that is on my list. So yeah, does anyone have anything else before I outro this?
No, I'm also going to watch the Drew Robinson story and
That'll just about
Barstool Survivor. I'm hooked on that right now.
all right. Sounds good. That'll just
Are we
about
having
do it for
internet
this
issues?
episode of
again?
Facebook.
We are. Oh god. Continue. Go, Glenn. Go.
For Cash, Tyler, and Scott, my name is Quentin Digers. I'm cutting this out now.